Hello mga kababayan, welcome to my channel. Welcome to Laruan ni Obi-Wan. So finally today in my area, the Walmarts and Targets that I visited have this wave on hand. So if you're interested in getting any of the figures or getting all of them, they are available possibly at your areas. So just check your areas out. Okay, so let's examine the contents of our purchase. So for $24, you have a Thor action figure, you have a hand, just a hand, and it's a fist, a right fist. And do you need a right fist for this action figure? Well, the movie is going to show us if we're going to need a right fist for the figure. But I'm just surprised that it's a right fist and a non-material holding hand. And we have Stormbreaker. Somehow the Stormbreaker is just of minimal size. Okay, so let's discuss articulation on this action figure. So we have Thor looking upwards, so on a upwards head tilt motion for a reason. Okay, so that is the articulation point on the head area. The head is on a ball and we have a hinge. So I just heated this figure up for about 30 seconds, but the joints are still really stiff. So I didn't want to mess any of the points of articulation on the figure by melting plastic, because so far all of the things or the soft material goods on this action figure are really soft. So let's get the head back on. Okay, so even if we have that kind of articulation point, as long as that joint area is stiff, out of the box you seem to don't have much articulation point, but actually it is there. So it is just a matter of loosening those joints up. So for the arms area, we have those pieces of armor, and actually the cape is a floating piece, so it's not attached to the back in any way. So we have a nice, really clean back, and the cape is made of soft rubbery material. Really great cape, and it's just connected to these front portions over here. Now in relation to what I just mentioned, these pieces over here, the parts of the body of the armor on the shoulder, actually would hinder articulation on the arm area. But if you don't really mind that that much, then it is actually okay. It is still capable of moving that arm 360 degrees. So lifting that arm sideways is okay. But before you really take this play with this action figure, 30 seconds of hair dryer time is really required, because out of the box, because of all of the paint material that we have on this figure, it really seems to be quite stiff. Well, I might differ, or my copy would be just that way, your copy would be different, but that's just a word of advice. So for the bicep area, we have rotation on the bicep. We still have pinless pin joints on the elbow, and that is 2 points of articulation for the elbow. We have gloved hands, and we have a hinge for that hand. Now the extra hand, the fist that comes with it, the right fist, also has a hinge on it. So let's go towards the torso area. So we don't have any cut on the waistline for rotation or articulation. All of the body movements would be concentrated on the diaphragm area. So the tilts the back tilts, the side tilts. So those are the articulation points for the abdomen area, because you have this much detail and a armor piece skirt that is nice and flowing for this figure. Okay, so let's move towards articulation on the legs. You think that it's going to be hindered by this skirt piece. Actually, it won't, because this is made of soft rubbery material. So when you lift the leg upwards that way, actually it is okay. So dynamic poses is still possible. We have a thigh cut for rotation of the thigh. Okay, so we have a pinless 2 points of articulation for the knee, and I really don't know why they can't transfer this to that joint and we still have a pin joint for the elbows. Anyway, so 2 points of articulation for the knee. And how does that knee bend? So that's a clean, nice bend, anatomically correct, does not dispel or really break the anatomy, especially a good designed figure like this. So as for the shin, we don't have any articulation point on the shin, but for the foot area we have a hinge and a rocker, which is standard Marvel Legends articulation point. Now let's take a look at the details of the figure, and let's start with the only accessory that this figure has, which is the hammer. And Thor is summoning now that hammer. Okay, so the handle on this is really thin, and that is the detail on this Stormbreaker hammer. And wow, that is made of soft rubbery plastic. The axe side is also made of soft rubbery plastic, and this side is also made of soft rubbery plastic. So no part on this axe is really made of solid material, but so far this one that came with in packaging is actually nicely molded, so we don't have any issues with it. We don't need to straighten out the handle because it's not crooked. Actually, it's really nice and straight. Let's take a look now at the figure. So the figure is really something to be thought of. So this is going to be the figure that is most sought of in this wave, and the reason would be with regards to how nicely colored this is. So if you're really interested with it, this is the details on the action figure. So the hair is already positioned in such a way to provide articulation point. The helmet is made of gold, and the wings on this are made of soft rubbery material. So possibly if you want a Wolverine looking Thor, you could do that, remold that, apply a little bit of heat. The only downside to this would be in relation to the eyes and the socket of the eye socket of the helmet, because as you could see, he looks really dopey with this helmet. Because of the way this helmet is designed, it is really not in proportion or aligned to the eyes of Thor, so making that fine head sculpt actually look really funny. But I was trying to lift this mask a little bit off. I think we could possibly make something out of this, or if you're interested, just possibly I think it is not connected to the face area, so it's possible that we're going to free that face. So anyway, let's experiment later. Let's first discuss the articulation points. Of course, with the body area, I think I'm going to paint these round pieces on the body armor. Somehow I would like them to be colored silver, not black, because we already have a nicely detailed figure and those pieces are just plain old. So something that would be really nice to add color with, because we already have a really colorful figure. This is going to stand out in your display if it is really, or you enrich the color of this action figure. So maybe possibly panel lining this with silver, especially on the pant areas. So the checkering, if you just paint the borders silver on the pants, and actually a little bit of silver over here, and the usual Hasbro quality of missing paints in areas and splashing paints on areas which does not need to be to have paint on, but something that you could remedy later as a toy collector slash customizer. So let's take a look at the boots. So that is a really finely designed and painted boot. So we have some kind of marbling on the plastic, and should we be concerned about that? So far it is really nice, solid, so it looks like part of the design of the boot that it is really nice and shiny. Okay, so the only thing is, if you're interested with Thor holding on to both hammers, I guess changing hands would be an option, but actually this is already okay, these handsets that it comes with. Now the only handset that we're not interested, that I am not interested with right now, would be the fist that comes with this set, because actually I really don't know why Thor would need fist. I know that he could wield thunder without a hammer, but as for accessories, I would rather have Thor holding on to this hammer majority of the time that this action figure is displayed on my shelf. Okay, so I think it's time for a little bit of customization for this figure right away. Now with regards to the cape, I'm going to retain that, but I'm going to try to really paint those silver discs on the armor, and let's see what I could possibly do to this face sculpt to improve it. Okay, so we finally have my final Thor Love and Thunder. So we made a review of the basic figure, and at the same time we already modded it or customized it or kit bashed it according to our personal liking. So for those of you who are also willing to do this, then here is the end product. So just a simple customization of your Thor Love and Thunder action figure. So I separated the head from the body and just painted the portions that I wanted to paint. So not really radical or a big project, just a little bit of tweak here and there where I could possibly make the figure more lively or make the figure pop. So with the silver colors on the buttons on the armor, so the look is now more is better actually. So instead of the very drab black buttons. The silver paint now really has livened up the figure. And the last thing that I did, as this paint were drying up, I put the body of the figure under the sun to really bake. I worked on the head sculpt. Okay, so this is what I discovered underneath that helmet. So actually we really have a good looking head sculpt of Thor under that. So if at first out of the box the stock figure really looked funny because he kind of looked cross-eyed, then just a little bit of X-Acto knife action would free that face, and there you go. So we have a more Chris Hemsworth face reveal. So what I did was just to take out these little pieces from the side of the helmet. So actually I really took time not to cut off the head sculpt of this action figure. So I changed blades on my X-Acto knife and made sure that I really had a sharp blade, so the precision cut would really be okay. So I cut the portions over here and on the front over here, also on the other side. So I just left the centerpiece. I was also tempted to take that out actually, but as you could see, we have some kind of molding of these little pieces of plastic that I took off. So there's some kind of molding on the cheeks of the figure, so I was wondering what would be underneath that nose. So instead of possibly exposing that nose, and there's going to be some kind of a mold down there that really is not good looking, instead it's going to expose something that this soft rubbery helmet is attaching to, then I'd rather just take the cheek guards off, and I am contented already with this look. Actually, we really have a nice looking head sculpt of Thor this time. So the figure does not only the head does not only articulate better now with this kind of head sculpt or hair sculpt, wherein the hair is flowing upwards, does not interfere with any points of articulation actually, because I was really surprised. So this baked under the sun for 2 hours, and when I started put on the helmet and I started articulating the figure, of course this has already once again dried up and the plastic has already stiffened. So there you go, we have a Thor that once again has stiff joints. But I'm really surprised with the articulation points right now. So I think I need to work once again on that hammer, because this figure was under the sun and it was baking under the sun, so it bent the handle of the hammer. But something that it could possibly just be fixed, simple fix. So anyway, let's get rid of this hammer first, because with this kind of look for Thor, actually it looks really like the classic Thor that we know from the 80s. So this is paired best. So here is my other custom action figure that I just did before I was able to secure a copy of this Love and Thunder Thor. So this was my first custom for her, because I was so exasperated not finding this figure. Anyway, so let's take the hammer, Mjolnir, and give it to Thor somehow to complete that look that we want of classic Thor. Even if this Thor has gold armor on. Okay, so really love the way this looks. So if you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope this was of help to you or possibly entertained you today. So good luck with hunting this figure if you're also searching for it, and if you're interested in doing the thing that I did to this figure, then this is the result. Okay, so let's move on to the photos and the video shots.